Hey guys, welcome to a Roll for Crit review. I'm Jonathan Estes.
And I'm Will Keeler. And today we're looking at Aquarium.
Yes.
This was sent to us by Z-Man Games to show you, and let's begin.
Yes.
So if you haven't guessed by the title, it involves fish.
It involves fish, it involves buying fish, feeding fish, keeping them happy and safe, and also acquiring points via the different types of fish that you acquire.
You want the prettiest aquarium.
You really do. So this board here is the pet shop, and each round, depending on, you're going to have 2 to 6 players, although there are special rules for 2 players that we'll get into later. A card gets flipped from here if it's empty, and then the player whose turn it is gets to decide if they want to try to buy this or not.
Let's say I decide to pass on buying this. You get some money, which I'll show the take 2. But then I add another card. So then on Jonathan's turn, he would see this.
So there's sort of a risk reward of buying now for less or letting it accumulate, and then someone else might get a really good pet shop option. But sometimes you don't want a lot of things in the pet shop when you buy, because at certain points you're going to have to feed the fish that you have in your aquarium.
Every time one of those Fishbowl cards appears, we'll draw 1 card randomly from the stack. There are 4 cards, 1 3, supposedly 1 1, but we've yet to see when we've actually played it, and 2 2s. Whatever number you get, so 2 being the average, for every fish you have, for every star above them, you have to feed pretty much 2 for every star. So this guy requires 4 food, while this one only requires 2, should the 2 appear.
Right.
Now, if you have a plant, which are these lovely things, they don't need to be fed. They also allow you, for every plant you have, you can choose 1 fish to not feed, because I guess the fish just nibble on the plant.
They eat the plants, and the plants...
but you don't discard them.
Right.
So they nibble on them. They don't fully eat. But so that's very useful in terms of deciding what you can and cannot keep.
A lot of the game is about that, because at first you're thinking, well, so here's how the actual points work. So at the end of the game, they're worth the points that you see on them with the stars, but also for each set that you have. So there's 3 sizes of each fish. So if you had all 3 sizes of the orange, or over here you can see, if you had this set of the pink fish, that's going to give you more points. Or if you have 1 of each color of the same size. So if you had that, for instance, all 4 of the 1 size fish, that is a set that gets you more points.
However, they can account for 2 sets, which is very important.
Right. So you can.
Here's the thing,
both.
though. You have to make sure they're all fed. Pretty much 4 feeding times you have to worry about. So then you have to learn how to use your economy to both make sure you keep the right fish, while also being able to score points at the end.
Because potentially, if the number 3 comes up, this is a lot of fish to feed,
right?
And you might not have that much money. And the other really big thing that we didn't talk about yet, if you do decide to buy the pet shop, it's not that simple. You can't just buy it right away. Every other player then gets a chance to play one of their action cards, actually 2 of them in 2 separate phases, and those can affect the pet shop. You might add
pretty
cards.
much there's 2 phases.
Yeah.
The first phase is alter the line. This is by either taking a card out, adding a card, swapping a card, and after all that's done, next is the actually affecting the price. Now on the board here, you'll notice there's a 2, which is telling you the second phase, +1, plus and -1, ×2, and 1/2. You have a card that can either plus or -1, times the price by 2, or cut it in half. So pretty much depending on what you play, that's the order you go in.
And if there are 6 players, those things can accumulate or negate each other quite a bit. So what you see is almost never going to be what you actually get at the end of the buying.
Right, so you got to be prepared for people just throwing in a lot of crazy stuff. And then in the end, you don't have to buy, even if you could afford it.
Right.
So that's an interesting way to sort of force people to play cards.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of that kind of meta strategy that will emerge the more times that you play this game. Now then, that's the basic mode. There are a few cards that you add in for the normal and advanced games.
Well, and 1 mechanic.
And 1 mechanic.
So let's go over, there's advanced and
normal.
Expert?
Normal
and advanced. So let's go over what normal adds. So normal adds this fish into the game. This is the bank fish, I believe it's called.
The fishy bank.
What it does is for every fishy bank you have, if you choose to pass, usually you get only 2 pieces. But for every fishy bank, you get an additional 1. So if I had this, I get 3 instead, which we found to be very useful.
Yes, money is very hard to come by in the basic game, and that is one thing that makes it a lot easier.
The second thing is breeding. So as soon as you get 2 of the same type, you have to choose right then.
Same color, same size.
You may choose to put them aside. They are now breeding. You don't have to feed them anymore. And at the beginning of your turn, you get money before anything else equal to whatever their size is. So this is 2 1s, you get 1. But like one game I had 2 3s.
So you got 3 beads at the start of each turn, which is great.
It became amazing.
Then the advanced game adds 1 more card,
Right?
Which is the rainbow fish,
I put that away.
and it is here.
And you actually start with 1.
Correct.
We forgot to mention you start with
Normally you start with 1 random 1. In the advanced game, you start with a rainbow fish. These can count as any color at the end of the game, which is
any
pretty
one.
good. Right, and you choose which color they become.
But it can only replace a 1-star size fish, though. So you can't, even though it's worth 2. So you can't use it to be like, oh, I have, a full set here.
Right.
No, it does count for a full set for that, though.
They also can't breed.
Yes. Neither could we forgot to mention the bankfish.
Right.
Though, honestly, would you want to breed those bankfish?
They're kind of scary.
If you had 2 of them, no, I mean if you had 2.
Oh, yeah, no, I want those to myself. So that's pretty much the gist of the whole game. Once there's 4 feeding times, it ends, and you add up all your points total, and that's who wins. So we've tried this. With the special 2-player mode and the regular mode.
Both normal, basic, and advanced.
And the advanced, correct. What did you think overall of the game?
It was really funny. The first time we played it, we're like, oh, this is Aquarium, 10 and up. I think this won't be too hard. And of course, I should have thought anytime something can starve in a game, we're all going to starve.
Yeah, we definitely, I think, all anticipated our scores at the end to be like, we thought we'd be counting up like, oh, I've got this set and this set and this set. And it was more, oh, I barely managed to get 1, maybe, because it's so hard to keep them fed.
It was also, I think the one game is definitely your first time playing will be punishing. But after that, I think that's what made a difference, because once you realize the importance of like holding on to, like not getting as much as you can in the beginning, like holding on to maybe this alone is good enough.
Right.
And then just save up until you get some plants.
The plants are huge.
Yeah, and that's why they're expensive. But there was another point when the plants came up for you, 2 plants. And I even halved it. So you could get, and because he wanted the money. But I'm like, Jonathan just got 2 plants, and you're just like, yeah.
yeah, and that's if we didn't already say, well, we did already say, once you have those more players, it's so much about also trying to read other people. Not only what do you want to do to that lineup, but what's everyone else going to do? Because also once you use a card, you don't get it back until the next feeding time.
Right, so there might be a way you want to bait out a card, for example. So the big one in question, I'd say, there's 2 cards in all the bait. 1, you're holding it, the × 2, because it's really annoying when you want something like a plant and someone decides to double the cost.
It goes from the cost of 10 to 20. That's a big jump.
Alone. That's for only 1 plant.
Right.
The other one is a swap. What we noticed a lot, in particular with the 2-player, this is extremely with the 2-player mode that we saw. Like if this was in the lineup, not that. Now it's my turn. I really want that rainbow fish. I mean, it sounds really good. But what's going to happen is I'm going to say I want to purchase. Jonathan's going to throw down his swap, and then he actually gets it.
Here,
so it's more advantageous for me to pass and force Jonathan to buy when I can swap for the rainbow fish.
Yeah, and a lot of
unless
times,
I can bait him to use the swap for something else.
And also what you've used is face down, so there also might be, you might think someone already used their ×2 or hope they did, but you're not sure. The 2-player mode is a little different because there actually is sort of a AI deck.
Yeah, pretty much that has their own deck that randomly throws in, which is very funny because you don't know what it's throwing in.
Yeah.
And it's not, because it's not like logically thinking.
It's completely random and it gets shuffled each round. So it could hurt you or your opponent in that case.
Yes.
Very interesting.
I think it's a good mechanic for 2-player.
It makes sense. I definitely prefer having more players.
I mean, yeah, but I think it's a successful 2-player mode.
It was necessary. Like they had to put that in order to facilitate that.
But overall, a very deceptive game in terms of difficulty, I think.
I think it's not very complex, but you definitely have to be smart about your purchases.
Yeah,
like you said, punishing is a good word. But I wouldn't say it's not punishing like the way it's not like a real heavy, like you're not going to be exhausted after you play.
But to me, it's at least in terms of mental. I don't know if stress is the right word, but like using your mind. I actually had to think a lot more of how is it worth buying here? What cards do you have? Other people have?
If you want to win, you do have to think.
And I really like that, though.
Yeah.
I think it's the right amount. And that's why it was really so shocking when we got it.
The theme is pretty fun. The art is pretty cool. We like that. It's not, it's light. It's not. They could be fish. They could be anything really. But
well, you said it should be Pokemon.
That's right. I think the Pokemon Aquarium is the next one. But yeah, overall, it is pretty fun. And you were also saying that you think maybe people should just jump right into the advanced mode.
This is more of, I've realized after saying it.
Okay.
This is not really because of Aquarium itself. Like, I'm noticing a lot more with a lot of games. We tend to do at first the beginning mode because we're like, we need to learn this, this. But
I recommend that too.
Because of where our gaming group is, with the exceptions of certain people that maybe aren't really in the gaming group as often, I think usually you probably could jump into their normal rules.
Yeah. I agree. I think I did appreciate having the foundation for this game.
But I also think that's fine. In this game, that's fine because, like I said, your first game is going to be punishing no matter what.
And it's also a pretty quick game, so it's pretty easy to do a basic, and then add the new cards in. Because then everyone will really be like, okay, I get the rhythm of the game now. I understand when I want to buy or not, or use cards or not. So it does add that extra. But definitely a better game with those in it, for sure.
No, because like we said, the first time we played it, we didn't understand the economy, so we got our tail fins kicked.
There you go.
But afterwards, with the breeding and the bankfish, made things a lot more interesting with buying and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But overall, a simple yet very, I guess.
I think it's right down the middle. It's a perfect medium.
Yeah, I'm just
game.
trying to think of that other mind meaty almost.
It has depth. It goes 20,000 leagues.
It's no Go Fish.
Right. It certainly is not. It's a good mix of it has that element of some randomness but it comes from other people, not the game itself. So it's a good mix of the light and heavy, fun theme, small box, not too pricey. You can actually pick this up, if not right now, very, very soon online, including at our own website if you want to check it out, rollforcrit.com. We sell Aquarium and lots of other games, so if you are interested, this sounds like something you would enjoy, we recommend Aquarium.
Definitely, and later on, if you get to play it, leave comments right down below, or plenty of other ways to reach us. One in particular, I just realized, because we didn't actually test this out, I would like to see this with a large group of people. In particular, at least one person at the table is one of the kinds of people who likes to count everything.
Right, that could be a fun thing because there is some hidden information.
And just to watch them try to guess what people are playing in time, I think it'd be very funny. But that will be for another time.
It will. So swim along, little fishes. Hope you've enjoyed this review. I'm Jonathan Estes.
And I'm Will Keeler. And this has been Roll for Crit Review.